So today I want to talk about value converters in WPF. Essentially, in simplest terms, we could describe a value converter as a process of converting from one type to the another. Okay, to demonstrate that, let's run the sample app I have already made. Not this one, of course. Let me switch back to set this as a startup project. So, okay, I have three examples here. The first one will convert an integer value to a string and display instead of, when we type in a number, it's going to display whether it's odd or even number, okay? And the second one is a Boolean checkbox that's going to display yes or no for us. And the third one is a color string to color conversion. So when we select a gender, it's going to display the color for that gender we selected. Okay. Let me show you a simple diagram here. So we have an int to string conversion, bool to string conversion, and string to color conversion. All right. So we are going to recreate a similar demo app from scratch now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add a new project. And name this value converters demo. Demo app. And make sure WPF app.NET framework is selected. Okay, let's add it and excuse me. Let's make this a startup project. Okay. Let me go ahead and flip my panes because that's how I like to work with. I get to see more code area, XAML area. But again, that's just a preference. So, okay, I'm going to start adding some columns and rows. So I'm going to start with grid.column definitions and add two columns. Actually, yes, two columns, 1, 2, and add a bunch of rows. Grid.row definitions. Row definitions 1. I'm going to copy and paste this a few times. Five should do it for now. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this to regain some area. Next thing I would like to do is create a style as a window resource. It's going to target our text blocks font size. So style, going to give it a target type. It's going to be text block. And the setter is going to be the type of property, font size with value of 50. So that should take care of our fonts for our text blocks. Scroll down a little bit. Actually, let me increase the font size here to 130. It's already 130. Make it 140. Make it a little larger. Next, I'm going to add a text box. Did something wrong. I don't see the. Okay, it's there. The columns, great. The grid is there. All right, so text box. I'm going to need to give it a name because we're going to reference this. We're going to reference this later on when we create our text block to bind the text. So I'm going to call this txt odd even and increase the font size to 50 as well. We have a squiggly line. Why is that? Name, font size. Content is set more than once. That can't be right. Let's rebuild this. Let's redo this. Let's remove this and redo it. Text box. Let's give it a name. txt odd even. I'm missing something, I think. And the font size. Let's try again. So same thing. Content is set more than once. Why? Line 1, 926. Sure. Okay, this is because this is outside the grid, that's why. So it needs to be inside the grid. Okay, so now that's okay. Now the text box is here. Let's give it a border thickness of 2 as well, so it's visible. Make it 3 maybe. Okay, let's run this. Make sure it's there. And we know it's there, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, great. All right, so text box is ready. Text box is ready. Let's do the text block. Text block. This is gonna go into here, first row, second column. So we don't have to set the row, but I need to set the column. 1. Okay. And I don't have to set the font size because we already did with the style. I'm gonna set the text to binding. And it's going to bind to our text box element name, txt. Let me actually move this to this next line. And we need to set the path to text property. So it's binding to the text property of our text box. Let's close this for now and test it. So as we type here, we should see it type in inside the text block, which is working as expected. That's great. So that's ready to go. Next, I'm going to need to add our converter. That's going to be a class, just a regular class. And I'm going to name this int2 string converter. It's good practice to be descriptive since we're going to have more than one converter. it's easier to identify which one is which. So let's create it. Okay, inside our class, we need to make it public so we can reference it from our main window XAML file. And this is the key, the key of all this converter deal. It needs to implement iValue converter, yes, iValue converter interface. Okay, once we are done typing, we can just go ahead and take the help offered by Visual Studio, and we're going to need this namespace here. I'm just going to click on that, and namespace will be added to our class as a using statement, which is system Windows data. Next, we're going to need to implement this. You can go Control Dot or use the light bulb offered and implement the interface. Once we do that, it generates two methods for us, and we are going to use this first one, which is convert method. Okay. So what's going to happen here? Let me show you another diagram here from the earlier project. So this text block here is bound to this text box. So when we enter a value in text box, this is going to, we want it to send that value in here as a value parameter. All right. And this is going to be done through this converter reference. Okay. So let's first create our code that's going to convert the int to string. Okay. So this, we need this value. This is what's going to be carrying that binding, text binding. So we're going to say if value to string not equal to an empty string, and int parse value to string. So we're going to convert to parse it to integer and say when the modulus of by 2, if it's equals to 0, so we're parsing it, and if when divided by 2 the remainder equals to 0, then we want to return even. If else if value to string not equal to an empty string, and int parse value to string modulus 2 not equal to 0. In that case, I'm missing brackets here. In that case, we want to return odd. And else, if anything other than these two options, you can simply return invalid. Invalid entry. Okay, so our converter is ready to go. Now let's bind to our converter. So we're going to go back to our main window XAML file. We're going to add a reference. That's going to be the local namespace up here. And as soon as we enter the columns, we'll see a reference, assistance from IntelliSense. We can just select that and give it a key. I'm going to call this key int to even converter. Okay. We get a little squiggly line because it's not in it. Just needs a rebuild, I believe. A rebuild should take care of that line, squiggly. Okay, yep, that cleared. Now, back in our text block, inside the binding, we're going to add our new converter. So we're going to say converter, open close braces. I'm going to say static resource, and IntelliSense is really helpful. We can just select that. So as you can see, it already created the instance and binded to the converter with invalid entry because our text box is empty. So if we run this, and let's go ahead and type something inside our text box. It gives us odd for 1, even for 2, odd, even, so on and so forth. So that's working as it's expected. Alright, so that takes care of our first example. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create our next one. So for this one, we're going to need a checkbox. Let's give it a name again. Let's call this check. Bool. I'll check yes, no. Yes, no. And let's increase the font size to 50. And we need to set the grade and rows, columns and rows. Grade dot column, no, column I don't have to set, but row we need to set. It's going to be the one I put it right here, third row, which is 2 based on 0 index. Okay, so let's see. Actually, yes. Let's actually put some content in there so we know where it is. Yes, no, question mark. Okay, and let's go ahead and add our text box also, text block. And we're going to place this in third row, second column. So grade dot column 1 and grid that rows is 2. Let's go down below and let's bind the text. This time we're going to bind to our checkbox. Element name, check yes and no. And we are going to, our path this time is going to be is checked property. Okay, so our binding is ready, and as you can see, it already created the instance and it displays false because it's not checked. So when we check it, we should see true. Check, uncheck, check, uncheck. Okay. Now next we're going to create a converter for this. Let's add new class. And we are going to name this bool to string converter. Hit enter. Let's make this public as usual. And let's implement the iValue converter. And let's add a reference, namespace, using statement, and implement the interface. Alright, inside our convert method, we are going to grab the value. We're going to say if value let's actually do casting. Okay, now if value to string I don't think we need this part, but no, we don't need it because it's already either false or true since it's already bound. So we're going to cast it, bool, value equals true. If the value is equals true, we want to display return yes, else, since we only have one other option, return no. Okay, save this and go back to our main and reference to that. Well, actually first we got to create a reference up here in our window resources. Again, we're going to say local and this time we're going to select bool to string converter, our class name, and give it a key. Our key will be bool to string converter. Okay, that's ready. Let's rebuild this to clear this quickly. Okay, and go back in our binding and reference our converter by saying converter equals to static resource bool to string converter. Again, displayed right away no. Instead of false, it displayed no. So if we run this and click on our checkbox, we'll see yes, no instead of true, false. Okay, so that's bool to string conversion. The next one is going to be string to color. Okay, let's add a combo box. Give it a name again. It's called a CBO gender. And let's place this in grid dot. We don't need to set the column, but we need to set the row. That's going to be play 4. And font size, let's give it 50. Okay, and let's actually open close this, expand it so we can add items. Combo box item. First one is going to be an M, and second one is going to be an F. F. Okay, so we can see it in real time, which is perfect. So combo box is ready, and let's add another text block. And this is going to be inside column 1 and grade that row is going to be 4. And let's bind the text property. This time we're going to bind to binding element name CBO gender, and property, the path is going to be, let's actually go down below here, say path. Path. It's going to be selected item. No, actually text property, I think. Text. Let's close this and test it out. See if we're on the right track. Yes. Okay, so that's good. Our binding is working. Now it's time to add another converter. Class, we're going to name this gender to color converter. Enter. Let's make this a public class. And as usual, value converter. Let's add the using statement and implement it and use our convert method. So here it's going to come in as text. So we need the if statement, if value. Well, in this case we can have 3 options, right? It can be male, female, and blank. So if value to string not equal to empty string, and value to string equals to letter M, then we want to return brushes dot. So IntelliSense is not helping because we need to add a new namespace, and we're going to say help us. Which one do we need? We need System, Windows, Media. Okay, once we add that, our color changes, which tells us we're on the right track. And as soon as we dot the brushes, we are given color options. So I'm going to select for male, I'm going to select light blue. And for female, so else if value to string is not equal to empty string, and value to string is equals to F. In that case, return brushes dot pink. On any other case, else return binding that do nothing. So basically, we are saying don't do anything. Okay. So let's build this. And let's go back to the main and reference, add another reference into our resources, local. This time we're going to use gender to color converter and get a key, gender to color converter. Okay. See, when you rebuild before coming here, while you're inside the converter, we don't get the squiggly line. Just a nice tidbit there. All right, go back in our binding for the text block and set our converter to static resource gender to color converter. All right, let's rebuild this and test it. So, so we're getting the string value. String value of the color. That's funny. That wasn't the intention, but hey, it's good to know that you can convert the colors this way. All right, so it's not the text property, it's the background property of the text block that we need to bind. Let's run this again. So if I select female, it's going to give us pink, and select male, it's going to give us light blue. All right, so all our converters are working, and we are rock and rolling. So that's that. I think we covered all our bases. If you want to, I made a list of steps you can follow if you need to. Yeah, you can just take a screenshot and follow along. All right. As a bonus, let me go ahead and show how to do this with the images. You can basically, we're going to use the same thing here, same male, female, text block, and let me add another text block here. So this text block, or actually image, I'm going to add an image, not text block. So image, I'm gonna put this inside grid dot column 1, and row is going to be, let's go ahead and do row 3, I believe, here. Okay, and I'm not going to do the binding yet, but what I'm going to do next is add an image. So I'm going to borrow actually from one of its earlier projects. I'm going to add this. Let me see if I have the image I'm looking for in one of these. That one. Alright, this one and this one. Oops. Let me copy this first. Copy and paste in our project. Copy and paste over here. So I should have both images here. That's male and that's female. So the file name, we're going to need the file names here. So one is male2.png, the other one is female2.png. So that's, we have the images. Let's add another converter. And class. And this one I'm going to call it gender to image converter. Okay, make it public. Go ahead and implement iValue converter. Over here, I'm going to say if value to string not equal to blank string, and value to string equals m, return male to PNG, else if, let me actually copy this from here. And make this f, want to return female to PNG, and if there is nothing else, return binding to nothing. Okay, save this, build it, and let's add our reference. Go back up here in our resources section and add another entry for reference to a local to refer to our new gender to image converter, and give it a key again. Call this gender to image converter, and go down here inside our image. We're going to set the source to binding static binding source. Binding source is going to be static resource. No. Source is going to be binding source static resource gender to image converter. I think that's it. Let's try it out. Actually, let's run this and see what happens. So if I do mail, nothing happens. Okay, so it's not working. Let's see why. Redo this. Static resource, no. So it's going to be binding. What's this image source? No. Binding source pet, no. Converter, binding converter, static resource gender to image. I think this, no. Binding, Jesus. Sure, binding. We should bind to the text, the combo box, of course. Sorry about that. Binding element name, combo box. And we need the path. Path is going to be text property. And the converter is our gender to image converter. I think that should take care of that. I blanked out briefly. Sorry about that. Let's run this. So let's select male, female, and it's working as it's expected. So there you have it, value converters. And that's how you do it. All right, probably in the next one, I'll go ahead and do a multi-value converter. I'll see you there. Thank you very much. Enjoy.